Elvis's first guitar was stolen when he was 17. He searched for it for decades. In 1976, a fan gave him an old guitar she'd found in an antique shop. When Elvis opened the case, he saw something that made him collapse. Inside was a note in his mother's handwriting. It was June 1976, and Elvis was backstage at the Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati. He'd just finished a show that had been physically exhausting. His health was declining, the medications were taking their toll, and every performance felt like climbing a mountain. A security guard knocked on his dressing room door. "Elvis, there's a woman outside who says she has something important to give you. She's been waiting for hours." Elvis sighed. There were always fans with important things, usually autograph requests or gifts he'd never use, but something in his gut told him to see her. "Send her in," Elvis said. The woman who entered was in her 50s, nervous and excited. She was carrying an old guitar case that looked like it had survived several wars. "Mr. Presley, my name is Margaret Sullivan. I'm sorry to bother you, but I found something at an antique shop in Nashville 6 months ago, and I've been trying to find a way to get it to you ever since." She set the battered case on the table. "I bought this guitar for my grandson, but when I opened the case at home, I found something inside that made me think it might belong to you." Elvis looked at the case. It was cheap wood, held together with duct tape and prayer, the kind of case a poor family might have used in the 1940s. "What made you think it was mine?" Elvis asked. "Open it," Margaret said. "You'll see." Elvis unlatched the case. Inside was a guitar that looked like it had been through hell, scratches everywhere, strings rusty, the wood warped from decades of neglect. But Elvis knew this guitar. He'd known it the moment he saw it. His hand started shaking as he picked it up. On the back, carved into the wood with what looked like a pocket knife, were the initials EAP, Elvis Aaron Presley. This was his first guitar, the one his mother Gladys had scraped together money to buy him for his 11th birthday in 1946, the one that had been stolen from the Tupelo fairgrounds when Elvis was 17. Elvis had searched for this guitar for 29 years. Elvis held the guitar like it was a living thing. His fingers traced the initials he'd carved when he was 11 years old, so proud to finally own an instrument of his own. "Where did you find this?" Elvis's voice was barely a whisper. "At an antique shop in Nashville," Margaret said. "The owner said it came from an estate sale. Someone's grandfather had died, and they were clearing out his storage unit. This was in there." Elvis looked inside the guitar's sound hole, where his mother had written his name in permanent marker so it wouldn't get mixed up with other kids' instruments at school. And then he saw it. Tucked into the strings, yellowed and fragile, was a folded piece of paper. Elvis recognized his mother's handwriting on the outside. "For Elvis, with love from Mama." His hands were shaking so badly he could barely unfold the paper. Margaret stepped back, realizing she was witnessing something profound and private. The note was dated January 8th, 1946, Elvis's 11th birthday. "My darling boy," the note read in Gladys's careful handwriting. "This guitar cost $12.95, which is more money than we should have spent. Daddy said we couldn't afford it. But I know what music means to you. I see how your face lights up when you hear singing on the radio. I see how you hum all day while you're doing chores. Music is in your soul, baby, and I don't want poverty to steal your dreams. This guitar might not be fancy, but it's yours. Practice every day, work hard, and maybe someday this guitar will carry you to places we can only dream about. I believe in you, Elvis. I believe you're going to do something special. Don't let anyone tell you different. Love always, Mama." Elvis couldn't read the last few lines through his tears. He sank into a chair, clutching the guitar and the note, sobbing like a child. His security team started to enter the dressing room, concerned, but Margaret waved them back. This moment needed to happen. After several minutes, Elvis looked up at Margaret with red eyes. "This guitar was stolen from me in 1950. I was 17. I'd taken it to the fairgrounds in Tupelo, and when I came back from getting a Coke, it was gone. Someone just took it." He wiped his face. "I looked for it for years. I never told anyone how much losing it hurt. By then I was famous and could buy any guitar I wanted. But this one, This one my mama had sacrificed for. She'd saved pennies and nickels for months to buy it, and I'd lost it. Margaret was crying now too. I almost didn't buy it. It looked like junk. But something told me to look inside. When I found your initials in your mother's note, I knew I had to find you. Elvis stood and hugged Margaret. You have no idea what you've given me. This isn't just a guitar. This is my mother's love. This is proof that she believed in me before anyone else did. Elvis asked Margaret to stay for a while. He wanted to hear the whole story of how she'd found the guitar. Margaret explained that the antique shop owner had told her the guitar came from the estate of a man named Harold Jennings, who died at age 84. Jennings had been a pawnshop owner in Tupelo for 40 years before retiring to Nashville. The shop owner said Jennings had a storage unit full of items that had never been claimed from his pawn shop, Margaret explained. People would pawn things and never come back for them. He'd kept everything for decades, probably hoping the owners would return. Elvis understood immediately what had happened. Someone had stolen his guitar, pawned it at Jennings's shop for quick money, and never returned. Jennings had kept it for 26 years, and when he died, his family had sold everything without knowing what they had. Did you pay a lot for it? Elvis asked. $25, Margaret said. The shop owner thought it was worthless. I probably overpaid. Elvis laughed through his tears. Ma'am, this guitar is priceless. Let me pay you back. Absolutely not, Margaret said firmly. I didn't buy it to sell it to you. I bought it to return it to you. That's not the same thing. Elvis tried to insist, but Margaret refused. Finally, he asked, What can I do for you? There must be something. You've given me back something I thought was lost forever. Margaret smiled. I have a grandson, Tommy. He's 15. He wants to learn guitar, which is why I was in that antique shop in the first place. If you could maybe, I don't know, encourage him? Let him know that music is worth pursuing? Bring him backstage, Elvis said immediately. Tomorrow night's show in Louisville. Bring him and I'll talk to him. I'll give him a guitar, a good one, and I'll tell him what your kindness means to me. But Elvis did more than that. Over the next few months, he had Margaret and her grandson Tommy to Graceland. Elvis taught Tommy basic guitar chords. He told him stories about learning to play on this very instrument. He emphasized that expensive equipment didn't matter. What mattered was the passion and the practice. This guitar, Elvis told Tommy, holding up the battered instrument, was the cheapest guitar in the Tupelo hardware store. My mama could barely afford it, but I played it until my fingers bled. I played it until the strings broke and we couldn't afford new ones, so I'd play it with 3 strings. The instrument doesn't make the musician. The musician makes the music. Elvis also made sure that Tommy understood the story of Margaret's kindness. Your grandmother didn't have to track me down. She could have sold this guitar to a collector for thousands of dollars once she realized what it was. But she gave it back because it was the right thing to do. Remember that, Tommy. Integrity matters more than money. Elvis kept his first guitar in a special case in his bedroom at Graceland for the last year of his life. He never played it. It was too fragile, too precious. But he would take it out and hold it, read his mother's note, and remember who he'd been before the world knew his name. In July 1977, just a month before his death, Elvis's girlfriend Ginger Alden found him at 3 a.m. sitting on his bed, holding the guitar and crying. She believed in me, Elvis said when Ginger asked what was wrong. Before I'd done anything, before I'd proven anything, my mama believed I was going to be something special. She spent money we didn't have because she believed in my dreams. He showed Ginger the note. She wrote this when I was 11 years old. 11. I hadn't even learned to play yet, hadn't performed anywhere, hadn't done anything to justify her faith, but she had it anyway. Elvis looked at Ginger with anguished eyes. I hope I made her proud. I hope I justified the sacrifice. I hope she knows that everything I became started with this guitar and her belief in me. She knows, Ginger said. Of course she knows. When Elvis died on August 16th, 1977, the guitar was found on his bedside table. He'd been looking at it the night before he died, perhaps drawing strength from his mother's words one last time. In his will, Elvis had specified that the guitar should go to his daughter, Lisa Marie. Attached to the case was a note Elvis had written just days before his death. Lisa Marie, this was my first guitar. Your grandmother Gladys bought it for me when we were so poor we sometimes didn't know where our next meal was coming from. She believed in me when no one else did. Inside, you'll find a note she wrote me. Read it whenever you doubt yourself. Read it whenever the world seems too hard. Remember that you come from people who believed in dreams even when they couldn't afford to eat. That kind of faith is your inheritance. Love, Daddy. Today, Elvis's first guitar is preserved at Graceland. It's displayed in a climate-controlled case with Gladys's note beside it. Millions of visitors have seen it and read the story of how it was lost and found. But what makes the display special is what Lisa Marie added to it. Tommy Sullivan's story. When Lisa Marie learned the full story of how Margaret Sullivan had returned the guitar to her father, she tracked down Tommy, now a middle-aged man who'd become a professional musician, inspired by his encounter with Elvis. Lisa Marie invited Tommy to Graceland and asked him to record a video for the exhibit, telling the story of his grandmother's kindness and Elvis's response. In the video, Tommy says, "My grandmother taught me that doing the right thing is more important than making money. She could have sold that guitar for a fortune. Instead, she gave it back to the man it belonged to. Elvis never forgot that. He told me that the world needs more people who choose integrity over profit. That lesson shaped my life." The exhibit has become one of the most photographed and shared displays at Graceland, not because of the guitar itself, but because of what it represents. A mother's sacrifice, a thief's crime, a stranger's kindness, and a full-circle journey spanning 3 decades. Music historians note that Elvis's first guitar, the instrument he learned on, the tool that started his journey to stardom, was objectively terrible. It was a cheap, poorly made instrument even when it was new. By the time it was returned to Elvis, it was barely playable. But it didn't matter. The guitar's value had nothing to do with its sound quality or condition. Its value was in the love it represented, a mother's belief in her son, a sacrifice made when money was scarce, a dream nurtured when hope seemed foolish. That guitar represents everything pure about Elvis's relationship with music, said Elvis biographer Peter Goralnik. It wasn't about fame or money or success. It was about a boy who loved music and a mother who loved her boy enough to sacrifice for his dreams. Margaret Sullivan passed away in 2002 at age 78. Her obituary mentioned that she was the woman who'd returned Elvis Presley's first guitar to him, but her family emphasized that she'd never wanted recognition for it. "Grandmother always said she just did what anyone would do," Tommy told reporters. "But Elvis told me that most people wouldn't. Most people would have sold it. Grandmother's kindness in that moment taught me more about character than anything else in my life." The story of the borrowed guitar, lost for 29 years, returned by a stranger, cherished in Elvis's final months, reminds us that some things find their way home when the time is right. Elvis had lived in Graceland for nearly 20 years before his guitar came back to him. He'd searched for it, mourned its loss, but eventually accepted it was gone forever. Then, in the last year of his life, when he was struggling with health problems and the weight of fame, when he needed connection to who he'd been before the world changed him, the guitar found him. And inside, it was his mother's message of belief and love, waiting 29 years to be read again when Elvis needed it most. Sometimes the things we lose aren't gone forever. Sometimes they're just waiting for the right moment to come home. Sometimes we need to lose something to understand how precious it was. And sometimes, a stranger's kindness is the bridge that brings our treasures back to us. Elvis's first guitar started as a sacrifice, became a tool for dreams, was stolen by greed, survived decades of neglect, and finally came home through an act of pure kindness. That journey, from sacrifice through loss to redemption, is a perfect metaphor for Elvis's own life. And the fact that his mother's words of encouragement waited inside that guitar for nearly 3 decades, ready to remind Elvis of her love exactly when he needed it most, feels like something beyond coincidence. Maybe it was Gladys herself, still watching over her boy, still believing in him, still making sure he remembered where he came from and who had loved him first. If this story of loss, kindness, and the journey home moved you, subscribe and share it. Have you ever lost something precious and had it return unexpectedly? Let us know in the comments. Hit that notification bell for more true stories about the treasures we lose and the miracles that bring them back.